Okay, so I'm gonna start with something that's gonna make half of you mad. And I don't care, because somebody needs to say it out loud. The John Deere versus Case IH argument, the red versus green thing, has been going on at every coffee shop, every co-op, every farm show in this country for 40 years. And most of the time, nobody's actually talking about money. They're talking about loyalty. They're talking about what their granddaddy ran. They're talking about the hat they got at the dealer Christmas party. Today we're not doing that. Today we're talking about which one of these machines actually puts more corn in the bin, more money in your pocket, and more breathing room in your operating budget. That's it. That's the whole conversation. Let's go. Before anything else, I need you to understand the stakes here. These aren't $50,000 decisions. A modern flagship combine, fully equipped, ready to roll, you're looking at $500,000 to $620,000. And the day you drive it off that lot, it starts depreciating. $40,000 to $60,000 a year. Just walking out the door in asset depreciation alone. Every year, whether you use it or not. Whether harvest goes well or not. So yeah, this matters. This is one of the 2 or 3 biggest financial decisions you'll make in your entire farming career. And Agro-Texas thinks you deserve a straight conversation about it before you sign anything. All right. Green first. The John Deere X9 1100. And look, I'll give credit where it's due. This machine is built around one thing and one thing only. Moving grain. Fast, twin rotor system. John Deere says it handles 30% more crop volume than their previous flagship, and in the field in real, tough, heavy green-stemmed corn that'll choke a lesser machine, guys. Running the X9 are covering ground in a way that genuinely surprises you the first time you see it. I was out in western Iowa 2 falls ago. Guy running an X9 1100 on corn. Conditions weren't perfect. Little tough, little green in the stalks. And that machine just kept eating. Didn't slow down. Didn't plug. Just kept moving. And I'm standing there doing the math in my head on how many acres he's covering per hour and thinking, okay, I get it now. 40-foot corn head. 40 feet. You know what fewer passes across a 5,000-acre farm means? Less fuel. Less time. Less wear on your headlands. And when a cold front is sitting 2 days out and you've got 800 acres still standing, every hour matters. Every single one. The Combine Advisor system on the X9 is worth talking about too. It monitors your loss levels, your rotor speed, your fan speed, and it adjusts automatically when your conditions change. You go from dry corn to tough corn and you don't have to stop and dial everything in yourself. The machine figures it out while you're still thinking about it. For a one-man operation running long days, that automation isn't a luxury. That's how you keep your loss numbers down at hour 14 when your brain is fried. And the data piece operations center ties everything together. Your combine yield data talks to your planter data, talks to your sprayer data. You come out of harvest, and you already know which 200 acres underperformed, which hybrid didn't deliver, where your yield drag is hiding. That's information worth real money when you're making $300 to $400 per acre input decisions for next spring. X9110, fully equipped, call it $600,000. Operating expenses run high. Parts aren't cheap. Service isn't cheap. But on 8,000 acres plus, in good corn country, this machine earns it. Now, let's talk. And green guys, stay with me here, because the Case IH 9250 has something the X9 doesn't. And it's something that doesn't show up on a spec sheet but absolutely shows up on your elevator ticket. Grain quality, the single rotor axial flow design. Case IH has been doing this since 1977. It's gentler on the grain. Less cracking, less damage. Cleaner sample. And I know that sounds like a soft argument compared to throughput numbers. But let me tell you about a guy I know. Seed corn producer. Central Illinois. Ran green his whole life. 35 years. His daddy ran green. His granddaddy ran green. Sweet Ched 2D 9,253 seasons back. And you know why? His seed corn acceptance rate went up. Fewer cracked kernels coming out the back. Cleaner sample hitting the dryer. The elevator called him to ask what changed before he even brought it up. That's the axial flow, doing what it's always done. It's not the fastest machine in a straight drag race, but it takes care of your grain in a way that matters. Especially if you're in seed production, specialty crops, or any market where sample quality affects your price. 500 horsepower, 40-foot header capability. AFS Connect gives you your yield mapping, your moisture data, your automatic header control, all the precision AG tools you need. It's not as deep in the ecosystem as John Deere's Operations Center, but it gets the job done for most operations. And here's the number I really want you to sit with. The 9,250 stickers, around $500,000 fully equipped. That's $100,000 less than a comparable X9 1100. On one machine, if you're running two combines, which a lot of 10,000-acre operations are, you just save $200,000. That's not a rounding error. That's your entire input budget for 500 acres. That's operating capital that stays flexible instead of sitting in a depreciating machine in your shed. All right here, before I get into the head-to-head money breakdown, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to Agritexas if you're not already. Share this with your partner or your operation manager, because what comes next is the part that actually answers the question. Which one makes you more money? Don't go anywhere. Okay. 10,000 acres of corn. Real. World. Not perfect conditions, real harvest with weather delays, tough days, and long nights. Which machine wins on profitability? Here's what I actually think, and I've looked at this from a lot of angles. If your ground is big and flat, your harvest windows are generally reliable. You're running commodity, corn or beans, and throughput is everything. The X9 1100 is the answer. That extra $100,000 in purchase price, spread over 5 years of ownership with the throughput advantage that machine gives you, it pencils out. You're moving more grain per hour, you're finishing faster. And finishing faster in farming is worth money. You can't always put a number on until you miss a window, and suddenly you can. Agritexas has talked to operators running coordinated harvest trains with the X9 moving 3,600 bushels per hour. At $5 corn, that's $18,000 worth of grain moving through that machine every single hour at peak. Every extra hour of capacity you gain by running the faster machine, that's what it's worth. But here's where I'm going to surprise some of you. On a diversified operation, corn, beans, wheat, maybe some seed production, I think the 9,250 is actually the smarter financial play, and I don't say that lightly. Lower purchase price means lower asset depreciation every year. Better grain quality means better elevator tickets on crops, where sample matters. Lower operating expenses mean more margin staying in your pocket instead of going to the parts counter. And $100,000 in capital that isn't tied up in the combine is $100,000 that's working somewhere else in your operation. I had a neighbor, ran green his whole career. Switched to 9,254 years ago on his diversified corn and bean operation. Sat down with his accountant after year 2 and his cost per bushel harvested had dropped. Not because he was cutting corners. Because his machine costs less to own, costs less to run, and his sample quality bumped his average price per bushel up just enough to matter. That's not brand loyalty talking. That's a profit and loss statement talking. And the P&L doesn't care what color your combine is. Here's the bottom line, and I mean this sincerely. Neither one of these machines is wrong. I want to be crystal clear about that. The X9 1100 is a genuinely great machine. The Axial Flow 9250 is a genuinely great machine. Agritexas isn't here to put a logo on your hat for you. What we're here to do is make sure you're asking the right questions before you write that check. What are your actual acres? What crops are you running? What does your harvest window typically look like? What does your elevator pay for sample quality? What does your operating budget look like after the purchase? Answer those questions honestly, not based on what your neighbor bought, not based on brand loyalty that goes back to generations, and the right machine will be obvious. My daddy ran green his whole life and never questioned it for a second, and he was right. For his operation, for his ground, for his time. But farming has changed. The money is tighter. The machines cost more. The decisions carry more weight than they ever did when land was cheap and margins were fat. You owe it to your operation and your family to make this decision with your head, not your hat. That's what Agritexas has always stood for, and that's what we'll always stand for. Thanks for watching Agritexas. If you found this breakdown valuable, Share it with a fellow farmer and comment below your thoughts on this topic. See you in the next one.